Okay. I don't know why that voice comes on. Anyway, welcome, Jason, to the call. It's Mari-Lyn Harris here of Hard at Work, and it's a podcast about creating an impactful legacy. And Jason is my guest today, so welcome, Jason, to the call.
Well, thank
And
you, Mari-Lyn, for having me. Yeah, appreciate
hey,
being on.
yeah, we've been planning this back and forth for a while, but that's cool. We're here. So, Jason, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started teaching and coaching or whatever else that you're doing? And just tell us a little bit about how you got started and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure. Whenever I was a kid, I loved playing sports. That was my favorite thing to do. And in college, I was like, I wonder what it would be like to be a coach. And so I got my degree in education, and then I've been a basketball coach for like the last 11, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then, whenever I was in high school, I had a traumatic event where I lost my dad to suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so, I've been able to overcome that through a lot of different strategies. And one of them I found recently was through a thought coaching program. And I
Okay.
went through that certification through quarantine, and now I'm a certified thought coach as well.
Okay. Okay. So what was it like going through? I'm sure it's tremendous going through losing a parent, but never mind to a suicide. So are you willing to talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's
Yeah.
really important to people, to get the grip. Because I know suicides are really high right now. And
Mhm.
so I'd like to put some more attention on our mental health and where we are in our life, how we keep ourselves going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, my dad he was a very humorous guy. He had a great personality. He was very outgoing. He was very, involved in the community. So just to give you some background, like this was
Hmm.
not something that was expected.
Yeah.
My parents have been together for 20 years. Like we were the traditional American family. Like everything seemed great on the outside.
Right.
Uh, it was, as a 17-year-old going through that, it was very, very confusing. Like I didn't
Right.
understand why he would do something like that because it seemed like everything was going in the right direction
Right.
from my perspective at the time.
Right.
So I dealt with a lot of things afterwards. I dealt with a lot of questioning myself, questioning what happened, some internal anger, some internal resentment, and things I never really expressed outward to other people. I really tried to make sure I did the right thing externally, but internally I had a lot of things that I really had to work through.
Mm-hmm. 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 So how did you and your family deal with this horrendous act of suicide?
It was really a one day at a time mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, she kept us going to church. We focused on our faith a lot as a family. We have I have big families on both sides, and we really it brought us together. And we really just had the focus of what do people need. And it was just one day at a time, because that's really all you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
um, every year that holidays come up, or every year that special events come up that are a reminder, we really try to check in with each other often, because it never goes away per se. It's always a reminder of what happened
Right.
whenever we get together as a family. But I think we've learned that we can still honor him, and we can still celebrate the things that he did well while I was here,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how he passed away.
Right. Right. And so what did you learn from that experience? Even though you're only 17, but you're still only 17. So what have you learned from that experience that you went through?
Yeah, I mean, so now I'm married, and I have a father. I'm a
Right.
father of a 4 and a 1-year-old, and the thing that I've taken away is that I want to be here for my kids, and I want to see my grandkids' kids.
Right.
So I think for me is to understand the importance of realizing that a job is important, or like, but those things will pass. Like focus
Yeah.
on who needs you to be here, and that's your kids, your wife, your family. And
Mm-hmm.
so keeping things in perspective is what I've learned. Like, don't allow the outside world to get into your head too much. Really learn how to filter those things that are going on, and
Mm-hmm.
realize that we are resilient beings. Human beings are resilient. And if
Mm-hmm.
something's not working for you, maybe that means you're supposed to pivot and change and do something else.
Right, right. And in regards to pivoting and stuff, now that we're in this pandemic, we all are pivoting in some regard, right? So what have you been doing? I know you said you got your thought leadership certificate and stuff. So what are the things that you've had to pivot through this pandemic and in your direction that you want to go with your business or your
Yeah.
teaching?
Yeah, I had to pivot from teaching in the classroom to teaching at home from a computer, and
Right.
I teach physical education, so that was interesting in itself. Uh, and then I had to, we had to pivot from, having our kids in daycare to having them now at home,
Right,
and then both of us trying to work through that and figure out what that looks like.
right.
And so my wife is, she is very resilient as well, and she's has been a big help in us being a team together to help figure us how we're going to navigate through this unique and interesting time in our history.
Right.
Um, but I saw it as like, well, as one door is closing, then another door has to open. So I've been really advocating mental wellness, mental health through podcast interviews,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then my book that I wrote as well,
Mm-hmm.
kind of ways to understand people like how important it is to really take care of your mentality.
Right, right. So let's talk about that. So, what do you think that are some of the ways that we need to look after mentality or mental health or physical health? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think taking care of your mental health, meditation, I think is key.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, there's not a right or wrong way to do it.
Right.
There's so many different ways you can.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's getting up early. And it's the first thing that I do whenever I wake up. And it's thinking about what I'm grateful for. It's thinking about, I almost do what's called an active meditation. I think about what I want to happen. I ask
Mm-hmm.
myself questions, what I want to happen as opposed to what I don't want to happen.
Right.
And that, when you can focus on the things that you want, when you can focus on the things that are going to help other people, and you see yourself in a position of a source, of somebody that can give, somebody
Mm-hmm.
that can, make a difference, and you see other people benefiting from the things you're doing, that kind of puts you in a much more positive feeling internally. And when
Mm-hmm.
you feel better internally, you're gonna naturally act better as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so meditation, what else do you recommend people look after their mental health?
Yeah, I think, moving and exercising, the more that that builds confidence whenever, and it's not so much enjoyable at the time per se sometimes, but even just,
Yeah.
8 to 10 minutes of movement that will create, more oxygen to your brain, that kind of thing that will get you thinking more clearly, staying hydrated, as well as some of the external things that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
because your brain is mostly water. And so whenever you are thirsty, whenever you're tired, that kind of thing, sometimes those negative thoughts creep in because you're simply just dehydrated,
Right.
and so just drinking more water, and as simple as that sounds, but also staying away from things like soda, things like, too much alcohol, those kind of things that are not good for your body, not good for your mind,
Yeah.
and trying to work on just staying more hydrated, I think is really key.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's key. Yeah, it's interesting. I used to just go for one walk a day, and then somebody suggested try doing 2 10-minute walks, one in the morning, one at night. So I make sure I get out and before I this call, I went out and did my 20-minute walk. But
Yeah,
anyway, it's just like sometimes we just have to force ourselves to go and just say, hey, that was so much fun. I'm going to do it again tomorrow,
yeah,
So like you were saying, it's one day at a time. What can I do for myself today? And yeah, so tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now and how do you want to help people or how do you want to serve,
sure.
people?
Yeah. Right now, I'm teaching in the afternoons, but I'm an entrepreneur by morning. So I really get into my thought coaching business program, working with people on their thoughts.
Yeah.
And then also I have I'm getting ready to roll out a company called 4D Athletes, which helps teach essential life skills through sports, and really helping parents and coaches and teenagers, 12 to 20, 12 to 18, 12 to 19-year-olds,
Yeah.
understand the importance of the role sports can play in their lives, and
Mm-hmm.
that even if you don't play professionally, there's so many life lessons that you can learn
All
that
right.
will pivot to anything you do professionally.
Right.
And it's helping parents understand that 99.8% of people do not go into professional sports and get paid for it. Most people stop playing sports in high school, maybe college,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a very small amount. So how do we use sports as a platform to ingrain positivity, to teach them how to fail and get up from that, teach that resiliency. So that's
Right,
kind of what I'm doing in a couple different areas.
right, right. So how do you plan that to be out? Just more about coaching, or do you do group
Yeah,
work,
it's,
or?
we have an online platform that we have, like
Okay.
it's like an online coursework where it's like micro lessons. It's like 8 to 10 minute with 10-minute videos somewhere around there,
Yeah,
and it's things that you can do on a car ride. But
right,
you can have, like, parents can engage with their kids about the lesson of the day. It's like things like building good habits, developing good communication skills, understanding how your mind works. Like
right.
your conscious mind, subconscious mind, emotions, your attitude, all those different things that we really try to focus on and raise the awareness, raise the consciousness of
Mm-hmm.
people through sports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So can you give us a lesson, or something that people can do now that maybe they haven't thought about doing, that you're teaching people?
Yeah. One thing is we talked about, the importance of hydration. So one thing that my wife and I do, we fill up our water bottles the night before. We put a bunch of ice in it. So in the morning, it's a reminder. It's right in front of us. So on habits, James Clear talks about making things that you want, habits that you want to create, visible, and making things you don't want invisible. So for
Right,
example, if you want to spend less time on your phone, hide your phone in your room.
right.
Make it out of the, so it's out of sight, out of mind. If you want to drink more water, put a full glass of water in the middle of your kitchen, making
Mm-hmm.
it attractive, making it visible, where you make the habit that you want to get rid of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, unenjoyable, unenticing, or disappear in general. So that's one thing. If you, as far as like building a habit,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, to break one, a bad one, and then build a good one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as you're building up your practice, what do you think that most of your clients think that they need or they don't have that they would work with you about? Like, what are some of
The
their challenges that they say, hey, Jason, I need your help?
Yeah, the ability to understand how powerful your thoughts are, and how, especially negative thinking, and getting out of a negative thought loop. And what I mean by that is, we have 70,000 thoughts a day, and
Mm-hmm.
90% of those thoughts get repeated from the previous day.
Right,
And then on top of that, a negative thought is 40 to 70 times more powerful than a positive thought. So
right,
if you're in this negative feedback loop, then things are probably happening in your life that you are focusing on that you don't want to happen. So what
right.
I can do is I can help you pinpoint where that thought came from, because also a lot of our thoughts come from outside sources that we get emotionally involved in. And
Mm-hmm.
anything you get emotionally involved in is how you're going to respond.
Right.
So when you learn to create your own thoughts of the things that you would like to happen, so say, for example, man, I really would like my kids to be more cooperative today.
Yeah.
Something simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a thought of like, well, kids are hard to raise, then you're going to see every reason why that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you flip that, like, you know what, I'm more patient today with my kids. I understand that I'm going to be a better parent because I'm going to be calmer. I'm going to take care of myself. And when a situation happens that's challenging, I'm going to be able to stay in control of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you see the difference of how that
Yeah.
can be approaching a situation, like if you have kids, if you're a parent, how much different you could go into a situation like that. Is
Yeah.
that um, so? That's kind of
Yeah.
what I do. I
Because
help people pinpoint, their negative tracking thoughts, and switch their mentality, switch their mindset, so they have
mm-hmm.
a different perspective.
Right. Yeah, I totally get it because if you look after yourself and your own thoughts, then everything else around you works so much better, right?
Hmm.
It's
Right.
like you were saying with kids, for example, I'm working with a lot of people who have trouble with sales, and I said, well, we're all in sales.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether we're negotiating or trying to get our kids to clean up their room, or, we're trying to get a coworker to work with us. So
Right.
it's just in our own language that we use and our mindset where we are in that moment. If we're in anger, might as well just give up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because
Because
nobody's going to respond how you
nobody's
want
gonna
them to.
exactly. Yeah. Because you're in a a fight or flight, kind of mentality whenever you're like that. And,
Yeah.
for example, this morning I was trying to get my 4-year-old to brush his teeth, and he's like, no, I want to play. No, I want to play. So I was like, my kid wants to brush his teeth. That's my thing. Like I was thinking, I was like, what can I do? So I pretended like I was a dog, and I was
Yeah.
like, hey, can you show me how to brush my teeth? And I literally, like, I waddled into the bathroom. He followed me, brushed his teeth because he wanted to show the dog how to brush his teeth.
Yeah.
The kid got his teeth, instead of me trying to fight him and say, hey, you need to brush your teeth.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it takes a little bit of creativity, but we have an imagination that unfortunately gets blocked in like our middle years because we have to learn so much content, that we kind of forget that we all have an imagination and we can be creative if we allow ourselves to be. And sometimes I think we as adults get too tight on that kind of stuff. Like we get too rigid and don't allow ourselves to be our own, who we truly want to be.
Right. Right. So now your kid's going to want you to play dog while he brushes his teeth.
If he gets it done, that's a lot more fun than having an argument with him. That's
well, that's for sure. That's for sure. So Jason, tell us a little bit more about who you work with, what you want people to know about you, and kind of go from there.
Yeah. I mostly work with people in sports, and I work with suicide loss survivors.
Okay.
I don't have like the scientific degree for suicide prevention, or the, or post prevention, but I do have the experience of losing my dad to suicide. I do have the experience of working in sports and working with athletes, working with coaches, working with parents,
Right.
and as a teacher as well. So, I'm just taking my most exciting times in life and my most painful moments in life. I'm thinking, how can I serve those two communities? And sometimes they'll overlap. Sometimes they merge too.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at a place of is, what can I do to help the people that I'm most connected with, that I most resonate with, and take my experiences, take what I've done to allow them to get to a better place themselves.
Right. 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 And so if somebody wanted to work with you, Jason, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I always welcome people who reach out to me, and I try to get with them within 24 hours. Message them back, connect with them.
Right.
It's not always perfect, especially with school starting. It's a little bit tougher because from half the day I'm in front of kids, and it's not always easy to respond there. And then my home life, I really prioritize my time at home with my kids. But in the morning time, I really try to catch up on everything and get everything. So I would say, give me 24 hours, maybe 2 days, but I promise you that I really try to make an intent to get to know whoever is willing to reach out to me. And I'm honored and I'm humbled that people would reach out to me for that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And of course, like you'll be able to find you on YouTube and podcast.heart at work online. That's where your page will be. And you can certainly reach out to people through there that way as well. So anyway, I want to really thank you, Jason, for being on the call this morning. Any final thoughts that you want to share or have a good message for the day?
Sure. Yeah. With the pandemic going on and a lot of people are experiencing trauma, one thing that, came to me was give life a chance to get better. I know a lot of us are going through some really tough times.
Right.
But I think having that positive optimism that, eventually things will get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and focusing on that light, no matter how dim it is, the light will eventually get brighter, and we will walk through this and we will walk past this. I think we'll be a better people, a better society in general after this is all over. I think we'll be more compassionate, we'll be more understanding, we'll be more empathetic because the whole world literally went through this at the same time.
Yeah.
So just give life a chance to get better.
And we all have a commonality together.
Yeah, which is something that we didn't have before this. We were very divided as a human species. But I think this is something that is, we are all battling this one thing together.
Right. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jason, for being on the call once again. And I wish you all the best of success with your new practice of coaching and sports coaching and mind coaching. So anyway, thank you so much for being on the call today.
Thank you, Mari-Lyn. It's been an honor.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And remember, Be kind. Always be kind. You never know what somebody else is going through. Thank you. Bye-bye.